What happens when the ice that's kept us safe for millennia finally melts? This story answers that question, and you won't like what's coming. Welcome to Beneath the Ice, a tale where the melting edge of our world reveals something ancient and hungry. Written by Rowan Hamilton. The darkness was complete. Dr. Sasha Ivanov pressed her forehead against the triple-paned window, trying to distinguish between the black sky and the black horizon.
During polar night in Svalbard, the sun remained below the horizon for over 4 months. 4 months of eternal night, broken only by the artificial lights of the research station and the occasional shimmer of the aurora borealis. Sasha's breath fogged the glass as the wind howled outside. Temperature readings showed -10 degrees Fahrenheit tonight. She'd been at the Bjørnøya Research Station for 6 weeks and still hadn't adjusted to the perpetual night. Core samples are prepped, called Dr. Magnus Hansen from the lab behind her. We can start analysis in the morning. Sasha turned from the window. Let's do a preliminary now. I want to see if there's anything in the permafrost section. Magnus shrugged, accustomed to Sasha's relentlessness. They'd been sent to document the accelerating permafrost melt, adding data points to the climate models that politicians back home continued to ignore. The lab was the warmest room in the station, filled with humming equipment and the sharp smell of chemicals. Their small team had been reduced to 3, since Eriksson had been evacuated last week with appendicitis. Just Sasha, Magnus, and Dr. Camilla Okafor, the microbiologist.
Under the harsh fluorescent lights, Sasha prepared to slide from the deepest section of the ice core, permafrost, that had been frozen for approximately 12,000 years. She adjusted the microscope and peered through the eyepiece. "What the hell?" she whispered. Magnus looked up from his computer. "Problem? There's movement." "That's not possible," Magnus said, crossing the room. "Nothing survives that deep in permafrost." But as he took his turn at the microscope, his sharp intake of breath confirmed what Sasha had seen. "Camilla needs to see this," he said. "It's not like any microorganism I've ever seen," Camilla said the following day, her dark eyes wide with excitement. "Cellular structure is all wrong. The way it moves." She trailed off, adjusting the microscope again. "Could it be contamination?" Sasha asked. Camilla shook her head. "We checked against all controls. This is from the core sample, 12,000 years dormant. And it's waking up." The implications were professionally exciting. A new extremophile, preserved in ancient ice, could reveal evolutionary pathways never before documented, especially if they discovered a new life form from pre-Diluvian times. It could help explain how life might exist on frozen worlds, like Europa. It could be the discovery of their careers. None of them voiced the other possibility, that some things were meant to stay frozen. That night, Sasha dreamed of ice. She stood on an endless frozen plain, under stars that looked wrong somehow, constellations she didn't recognize. Before her, a group of people in fur clothing worked methodically, carving symbols into the ice. They chanted in a language that sounded like no human tongue Sasha had ever heard. Yet somehow, she understood their purpose. Contain, imprison, protect. One of the fur-clad figures looked up directly at Sasha, eyes widening in terror. The person pointed behind her, screaming words Sasha couldn't comprehend. She woke gasping, sheets soaked with sweat, despite the cold. "The samples changed," Camilla announced 3 days later, her voice tight. Sasha looked up from her climate data. "Changed how?" "It's organizing. The cellular structures are communicating somehow, forming networks." Magnus frowned. "That's not possible. We're talking about microbes." "I know what I'm seeing," Camilla snapped, her usual composure cracking. "And I'm seeing coordinated behavior. Come look." On the monitor, the microscopic view showed what had once appeared to be individual cells, now forming intricate, symmetrical patterns. As they watched, the patterns shifted, rearranged, like a puzzle solving itself. "It's responding to heat," Camilla said. "The warmer the sample gets, the more complex the organization becomes." "Put it back in containment," Sasha ordered. "Maximum protocols." That night, the temperature dropped to -15. The station creaked and groaned as metal contracted. Sasha dreamed again of the ancient people on the ice, their faces masks of terror as they worked to carve their symbols. to bury something deep beneath the surface. She woke to the sound of alarms. Equipment malfunction in Lab 2, Magnus explained as they hurried down the corridor. Temperature control failed. The samples? Sasha asked. Containment appears intact, but the freezer went into emergency shutdown. Camilla was already there when they reached the lab, frantically working at the backup system. Ow, gasped Say. Her hands shook slightly. It thawed, she said without looking up. Sample C12, completely thawed for approximately 40 minutes before the backup engaged. Sample C12, the ancient permafrost sample. We need to check it, Sasha said, moving toward the containment unit. I already did, Camilla replied, her voice strange. It's changed again. Under the microscope, microscopic cellular structures had formed into something else, a viscous, darkly iridescent material that pulsed with an internal rhythm. Is it growing? Magnus asked. Camilla nodded. Yeah, it looks like its mass has increased by almost 20%. That's impossible, Sasha said automatically. But the word had lost all meaning here in this room, with this thing from the deep ice. I've been conducting additional research, Camilla said, pulling up files on her tablet. Local indigenous legends speak of demons beneath the ice. And there are records from early explorers. What, you believe in ghost stories, all of a sudden? Magnus interrupted. I believe in what I can see, Camilla replied coolly. And what I see is something that's been frozen for thousands of years. Something that grows when thawed. Something that organizes itself in patterns that no known microorganism is capable of. Sasha stared at the sample. For a moment, she thought she saw the patterns from her dream forming in the viscous material. Contain, imprison, protect. That night, the wind rose to a howling gale, battering the research station. The thermometer registered an anomalous 10-degree temperature increase, still brutally cold, but a significant spike for the season. Sasha found herself unable to sleep, plagued by fragments of her recurring dream. She went to the lab instead, drawn by a compulsion she couldn't name. The containment unit's readout showed normal operation, but as she approached, she noticed a faint, rhythmic sound coming from within. Tapping? No, more like a heartbeat. The sample had grown again, now a palm-sized mass of glistening, dark material. As she watched, it pulsed once, twice. Patterns formed across its surface, the same symbols from her dream. A sound in the doorway made her turn. Camilla stood there, eyes wide and strangely vacant. Isn't it beautiful? She whispered. Camilla, I think we need to destroy the sample, Sasha said carefully. Camilla's expression hardened. Destroy it? This is the most significant discovery in human history. It's communicating. What? What do you mean? In my dreams, Camilla said, moving closer to the containment unit. It shows me things, what it was, what it will be again. Alarm bells rang in Sasha's mind. When did you last sleep? Sleep is irrelevant now, Camilla said, her gaze fixed on the pulsing mass. It's so ancient, Sasha. It was here before us. It will be here after us. Camilla, I think you need to rest, Sasha said, slowly reaching for the emergency alarm on the wall. Don't, Camilla said sharply, grabbing Sasha's wrist. Her grip was unnaturally strong. It wants to be free. All these years, imprisoned by primitive humans who feared what they couldn't understand. Sasha twisted away. Whatever that thing is, it's affecting you. It's showing me the truth, Camilla's voice rose. The climate isn't just changing, Sasha. It's being changed. For this moment, for the awakening. A crash from the containment unit drew their attention. The sample had doubled in size, pressing against the glass. The alarms began to wail. Magnus found them in the lab, wrestling for control of the containment override. The sample had grown to the size of a basketball, pulsating violently. What the hell is happening? He demanded. Camilla's lost it, Sasha gasped, struggling against the other woman's unnatural strength. The sample, it's doing something to her mind. It's evolving. Camilla cried, becoming what it once was. The containment unit's glass cracked with a sound like a gunshot. Dark, viscous material began to seep through. Whoa! Emergency protocols, Magnus yelled, rushing to the wall panel. We need to incinerate the lab. No, Camilla launched herself at him, eyes wild. As they struggled, Sasha spotted something on Camilla's wrist. a dark, vein-like pattern extending from under her sleeve. The same pattern the sample had displayed, the same symbols from Sasha's dreams. The containment unit shattered completely. The mass surged outward, growing exponentially as it absorbed the surrounding air. Tendrils of darkness reached toward them. Magnus hit the emergency button seconds before one of the tendrils wrapped around his ankle. He screamed as his skin darkened where it touched him, the strange vein-like pattern spreading upward. "Sasha, run!" he managed to shout, before another tendril covered his mouth and went inside of it, silencing him as he gasped for breath. Sasha bolted in panic, sealing the lab behind her as the emergency protocols engaged. Through the window, she saw Magnus and Camilla engulfed by the growing mass of tentacled darkness. Their bodies jerked and twisted before being absorbed completely. The thing pulsed once more, now human-sized and vaguely humanoid in shape. It turned toward the window, and Sasha could have sworn it smiled, a ripple across its surface that mimicked the human expression with horrible precision. The lab's temperature readout climbed as the emergency incineration began. The creature showed no distress as flames erupted around it. Instead, it placed a tendril-like appendage against the window, leaving a pattern of symbols etched in the glass. The same symbols from Sasha's dreams. A message. "I am one of many."
The rescue helicopter arrived 3 days later, responding to the station's automated distress signal. They found Dr. Sasha Ivanov alone, huddled in the communications room surrounded by maps and ancient local artifacts she'd dug out of storage. "The others?" the rescue pilot asked. Sasha's eyes were hollow with exhaustion. "Gone." "Gone where?" "There's nowhere to go in this weather." She handed him a tablet. "This is happening at every research station across the Arctic. There is unusual biological activity in the permafrost, temperature anomalies, personnel changes." The pilot frowned at the data. "What does it mean?" Sasha looked out the window at the endless darkness. "It means they were imprisoned for a reason, and now the ice is melting." "Who was imprisoned?" "Not who," Sasha whispered. "What? And not just here. Everywhere the ancient ice is retreating." On her tablet, alerts flashed from research stations across the Arctic Circle. Anomalous biological readings, unexpected temperature fluctuations, lost communications. The pilot's radio crackled. The voice on the other end sounded strange, distorted. "We should go," he said uneasily. "Now." As they lifted off, Sasha looked down at the research station. For a moment, she thought she saw dark shapes moving across the snow, converging on the building. But it must have been a trick of the light. After all, in the Arctic winter, there was no light to trick the eye. Only darkness beneath the ice, spreading as the world grew warmer. Contain, imprison, protect. Too late now. You've just listened to Beneath the Ice, written by Rowan Hamilton. The ice continues to melt across our world, degree by degree, inch by inch. As you go about your day, perhaps you'll wonder what ancient secrets might be awakening in the thawing permafrost of the Arctic, or beneath the receding glaciers of Antarctica. Perhaps tonight, in your dreams, you'll hear it too, that rhythmic pulsing, like a heart beginning to beat after millennia of frozen silence. And perhaps you'll understand why our ancestors carved their warnings in ice and stone. Remember, some things were meant to stay frozen. If this tale from beneath the melting ice sent chills down your spine, be sure to sign up to my newsletter at hauntedhamilton.substack.com, link in the description. There, I announce these short stories and book launches. Plus, I also provide character bios, book cover reveals, and more. I'd love to see you there, and I hope you enjoyed this short story. Until next time, stay warm and keep watching the ice.